Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of The Contrasting Perspectives Younger versus Elder Siblings. I'm Nitya, the younger sibling.
And I'm Samanvi, the eldest. Today we're diving into the classic sibling debate, how our different birth orders shape our views and experiences growing up.
We'll be sharing our contrasting perspectives on everything from responsibilities to freedom and what it really means to be the oldest or youngest in the family.
Okay, so let's dive in already. I feel like in terms of younger and older siblings, the younger ones are always the ones that parents tend to like more, especially because of I guess their personality or the way they act. But I always see, for example, like my parents tending to listen to my younger sibling far more than me, or showing a bit of favoritism towards them compared to me when I was a child.
Personally, it could differ based on gender, but as a younger sibling, I feel like my parents always like my brother more. And it's a very common topic that people debate over, and it seems that everyone thinks the younger child gets more favoritism. But the truth behind the doors is that parents always say oh, but you should listen to your older sibling because they know more and they've been through everything. Like, they always say that they know more than you and they tend to trust them more and rely on them more, which I get why, but I definitely feel like elder siblings get more love from parents.
I mean, in that way, like, I understand because they do know us way more than you, especially because we're the eldest and we are seen as like the responsible ones. But at the same time, like, that still differs from like favoritism. Like, even if they tell you, oh my god, you can trust your elder sibling more, I feel like at heart they love you much more than us. Like, let's take like the example of my dad. With me, he's always like this one strict guy, and even my mom, I tend to argue a lot with both of them. But then with my younger sibling, it's like she gets away with everything.
I see what you mean, but my parents argue a lot more with me than my older brother. And also, they it's not just that they believe him more or trust him more, which they do in some cases, yes. But what I'm trying to say is he always got to do everything he wanted, and he was their first. He was their first child, he was their first experiences being parents, and they showed a lot of love into it, and he was the first person that made them parents. And then I came in. Of course they still love me, I'm not saying that they don't, but they already have an amazing person, and suddenly you get someone else. It's like when you have a really close friend and you get a new one. Of course you like them, but you still are way more loyal and you have even more love to your original friend.
You have a point there. You have a point. But I feel like then, like, this kind of feeling where we see, like, for example, like the fact that parents like younger siblings more than us is because you guys come in later than us. We've experienced parents like taking care of us only since we were childhood, and then like younger siblings appear, and as soon as like the attention goes to younger siblings, we feel kind of like left out. So I guess where we get that feeling from.
They're like older siblings, they're very used to being the only one their parents always known or take care of and loved. But when the younger sibling comes, even if it's even, because they already know how it is and it was like a casual vibe, now that it suddenly changed, even though it's equal, they feel like the younger sibling gets more love, especially since obviously a newborn baby needs much more care than an already toddler or child, and you'd have to like change its diapers or like breastfeed. I don't know, there's a lot of things in terms of a newborn child, and they would get more attention as because they are just born. Other people in their family might not have met them yet and they want to, and their first time could be exciting, which doesn't mean they love the older child any less. It just means that there's another person and now they have to share. But if you think about it that way, you guys had a moment where the spotlight was completely on you, but the youngest child, since they were born and until they'll die, they'll always have to share. They never got a single moment where it was just them and their parents.
Yeah, exactly. um Talking about like the attention issue. I feel like since we've mentioned before with parents like um the elder sibling being their parents' first child, obviously they're inexperienced, right? And they train a lot with the elder siblings. It's like they learn new things and everything. And I feel like also because of that, the younger siblings also tend to be like the luckier ones, especially because for example, when they have the eldest siblings, parents just learn like what kind of medicines they need to put, how they're supposed to raise a child. Like they might yell, they might make mistakes, and the eldest child is constantly raised with these mistakes, you know? But when the youngest child is born, the parents at least learn from most of their mistakes and try not to continue with their youngest child. So in terms of like even emotionally or physically, they have it way luckier than elder siblings. For example, I remember as a child being like abused like mentally, like verbally or even physically a lot by my dad. However, like with my sister, it's different because my dad learned his lesson, I guess, and she gets away with like all that abuse, you know?
Well, speaking about it that way, I see why the mistakes could be corrected by the time you have your youngest sibling. But for me, I still got physically or mentally abused, not to a high level, but the same as my brother, since they learn their mistakes, but they also compare everything. And obviously, it's a very different thing. For example, if my brother is 4.5 years older than me, so obviously, when I'm in like first grade, he'll already be in fifth grade, and they expect me to know what he knows, which is obviously diabolical, and I don't know what he knows. And then they kind of think I'm just young and dumb, which lets him have more like luck and the way my parents treat him, because they always compare, be it grades or anything. Like they're like, oh, he's already in fifth grade and he got an A in that subject, and you're only in first. It has to be easy. Why did you get a B? You know, but it can be very personal, and just because your older sibling got something doesn't mean you got it too. And they definitely have a way more view of comparing, because when you're first born, of course they seen it in movies or have their cousins or friends kids, but it's like their actual first experience. They see how a kid is and what they do when they're younger, and they don't have a way to compare it. But when there's a younger sibling, they always compare it with the older sibling, and in certain scenarios the older sibling could be less naughty, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, but your older brother didn't do that, so why do you do it? And they get a lot of like comparison, and I feel like the older siblings are lucky because they never got compared.
Yeah, I agree with that a little. I mean, comparison is like a very, very main issue among siblings. Like the younger siblings should not be compared to the eldest ones like whatsoever, especially because you guys have like different personalities and also different kind of talents and skills. And the thing is like the elder siblings have seen like way more I think like the elder siblings have seen way more experiences and have also been through far more than younger siblings. For example, like you said, with your brother in fifth grade, he might have gotten like A grade straight A's, but that's because he has lived more than you and you still haven't experienced school, you know? Okay, but yeah, coming to that, I feel like the comparison can also lead to like who has more freedom in that issue.
As I see it, it could be because my brother is way older than me, or it could be because he's a guy. But he definitely got more freedom, be it in school, be it in my house, be it hanging out with his friends. He simply asks, or no, he just states, like, oh, I'm gonna do that. And my parents just, like, thumbs up, they can do whatever they want. But then with younger siblings, maybe it's because they are more protective, because they're often seen as the baby of the family, and even if they grow older they can never see that. because they're still in that feel like, oh, she's just still little, she's little, you know. But my brother did like a certain thing at 12, which could be traveling alone to another city in Europe, which isn't that big of a deal if you think about the European borders and everything. While me at 12, I have to beg my parents to be able to do that with one of my friends who are 4 years older than me so they can do it, you know? And they definitely have more freedom like on their phones. I agree, I might have gotten like a telephone at a younger age, but that's because I was born after him and phones or iPads were more common. And if you think about it that way, he might be older, but he has way more stuff than me. Like, he has a computer, he has a Nintendo Switch, he has an iPad, he has a phone, he has a TV in his room. I don't have all that. I just have a phone and an iPad. I'm not saying it's a lot. I'm still thankful that I got it at a younger age and it's very useful to me, but he definitely gets more freedom, and I strongly believe that.
Honestly, in terms of what you said, yes, in those terms. But at the same time, I also believe that younger siblings get more freedom because in your case it might also depend on like the genders, especially because he's an older brother, you know, and also because since you're a younger female, like your parents may be like more overprotective of you. However, in my case, as I've seen it, like my sister gets more freedom. For example, when it comes to like Netflix, since there's age restrictions, right? She gets to see like 12 plus at the age of 10 or something. But I had to wait until I was like 14 just to watch 12 plus things. And also like social media, like Snapchat, like I got it at the age of 13, and after what, fighting for a year with my parents, well, my sister got it within a month, you know? And I believe it's because since the elder siblings have lived like way more than the younger ones, they've fought at least a few things with their parents, you know, it, let's say like social media, like an example, or TV controlling, or games, or stuff like that. So you guys, so since we fought the way, you guys tend to have more opportunities with it, like more freedom. For example, like they give you iPad without hesitation, while with us, they may have hesitated for months and months on end, you know?
I understand what you're trying to say, but like I said, speaking on the Netflix topic and everything, I always got better opportunities, and that's because maybe it's because an older brother at some point becomes a second parent, and in your case, your sister still had to ask your parents. But for me, when I wanted to get Instagram or something, I had to ask my brother because my dad had it and my mom didn't really have it, and they didn't know much about it. Like, they knew it existed, but my brother already had it and he used it with his friends and everything. So I had to convince him to get it, and he was being overprotective, and he was like, "Oh, you can only get it if you get a private account and everything." And honestly, in this case, he got those social media apps at the same age I did. So I think that was pretty fair, but it wasn't really planned out. But I did have a more open opportunity to do stuff I wanted. But at the same time, he always gets to choose what he wants to do. For example, when we moved to our new house and there was like a bigger room and a smaller room with a balcony, we both wanted the bigger room, but since he was older, he got it, which is kind of unfair because as a girl, I don't want to seem like pick me or anything, but I have more clothes and toys than him, and I got a smaller room, which I find unfair. And I know I'm younger, but still, he always gets more stuff.
Oh, okay. In that case, like, I understand. But I, despite all that, I do think that younger siblings tend to be like, parents tend to treat them in a more easygoing way, you know? For example, like me, at least as an elder sibling, I had to help my parents a lot around like the house or whatever. And whenever I did a mistake, my parents would like yell at me immediately, you know? And I do not remember the exact situations. But in the case of my younger sister, she has been like let out like many times, you know? Even a simple mistake that if I did in my childhood, I would have gotten yelled at, my sister wouldn't, you know? And like I said, like the verbal abuse, like of childhood, it's not prominent with my sister, you know?
For me, it's like I see why you guys think that we have it more easygoing with the parents, but whenever I get into a fight with my older brother and I want to explain what happened and my side of the story, my parents always say like, "No, it's your fault because he's older and he knew everything and you didn't. You just acted without thinking." They haven't been there for the situation, and as well as it does depend on the parents and the siblings and everything, they do tend to uh trust them more, which gives them a more easygoing nature because they'll be like, oh, she or he is old enough to do whatsoever thing. Whereas with the younger one, they always uh just don't think they're at the stage of doing anything by themselves. And uh at least in my house, we kind of split the chores, and my brother and me both have to help around the house. And there's certain things where my mom does ask my brother because it's something I can't do, like lifting something really heavy that even she can't lift. And it makes sense why she'd ask my brother, because my brother's 17, almost 18. And of course, it is different, but I think parents are more easygoing with the eldest siblings. And talking about that, let's see how the younger siblings tend to copy or think of their elder sibling as a role model.
I mean, honestly, I do get annoyed very much if my younger sibling ever tries to like copy me, even in clothes or drawing or my hobbies. I every time like I see her try to follow whatever I do, I tell her like straightforward, listen, I don't know if you got this from heart or you're just trying to copy me, but this is not the way. If you're trying to copy me, then like go find your own thing, you know? It's better. Like the way I found my own things, I feel like she should too. And also I'm not sure if I may be right or wrong, but if I put myself in your guys' perspective, I feel like it's because we're held at a higher regard, you know? And like you kind of see us as like how can I say as a helping hand to you guys, you know?
Yeah, as I don't know much about the world or nearly as much as my brother knows, whenever he does something, I didn't even know it exists sometimes, you know? Like, sure, it might seem like a normal thing, but at some point when I was younger, he said he was gonna go to a 4D movie. I didn't know what that was. It sounded cool. I asked him, he explained it to me, and then I wanna go. In some scenarios, it can be because I want to do what he does, but then again, I learned about it, which I haven't known before, and it makes me want to try something new too. But there are certainly times when my brother would draw when he was younger and he was really good. So I wanted to be like him too because I did look up to him and think he was cool. And it did like help me see a lot more than I could with my own eyes because I could see his perspective of the world and what he liked to do. And like nowadays his and my interests are pretty different, but we both like music a lot, but our vibes are very different, as he likes like more hard rock and I like more pop, I guess you could say. But either way, he definitely brought me to understand a lot of things, and he has a lot of general knowledge that really helped me. But he's very reliable, and I feel like just because he's reliable to me doesn't mean I'm not reliable in general, because younger siblings are reliable.
Yeah, but I feel like in terms of reliability, I personally tend to be more like more to do things by myself, you know? You're younger than us and we think like oh, you may not know as much as us, and like you may not be able to answer like all the questions we have. Let it be like emotional problems, let it be any like school problems or stuff, you know. So we tend to like rely more on our friends or parents than you guys, you know. But that does not mean like we don't rely on you at all. It's just that we don't share like the same experiences, at least for me to have enough like questions for you, you know?
I definitely see from a perspective of the siblings, the younger, as a younger child, if I was the older child, I wouldn't rely on my younger sibling that much either. But what I'm saying, as the family in general or other people, when they find out I'm a younger sibling, they think I'm less reliable or not as smart, and they can't believe in me. But that's just because they often are referred to as the baby, and it's just hard to get out of that shell or
Yeah.
social label people place on you.
Yeah.
And it's just, I get what they're trying to say, but
But then at the same time, like I feel like it's society, like, you know, like your family or other family relatives rely a lot more on elder siblings, you know, like a lot, like to the point that sometimes they get pressured on, whereas like for the younger siblings they don't rely as much, you know. And this reliability can also lead like the elder siblings to develop this kind of like stress that, oh my god, you know, everybody sees me as this like independent mature person, and I need to seem more, you know,
that
like dependent for others, you know, the others can depend on me.
that pressure can be very difficult, and I completely applaud them for holding that all together. It feels like the all the pressure is on them, and the younger sibling is just there chilling. But what I'm trying to say is, my brother loses stuff a lot. Be wallets, he lost 3. Be bikes, he lost 4. Don't ask me how, but it just happens. And he always got a new one, which is kind of not fair. Like, he even lost his identity card at some point, which is annoying because they see him doing that, and then they take away my reliability too. And I've never really lost something that important. And then when he lost his wallet, they took away my money too, because they were like, oh, you're gonna lose it, you know. And that was unfair because he lost it, true, but he got it back, and I'm the one who lost my opportunity or chance to experience the same thing he got. And I lost something that I never had because of his mistake. And if it's like our parents want us to hold something, be it a key or just a responsibility, they always give it to the older child. And of course, that has a different toll on them emotionally. But I'm just saying, I don't mind them giving it to me. And even when they ask them, they go like, no, you can't do it, you can't do it. Like, they'll do it. And I'm like, are you stupid? He's the one that lost your keys 3 times and you're not going to give it to me. But it's up to them. And at the end of the day, I feel like older siblings boss them around with the idea of protecting them.
Okay, yeah, there I'm gonna expand on that a little bit more. The thing is, we want to protect you a lot, by a lot. Like, whatever things we may have experienced, like bad or good, you know, we went through like more than you because, you know, you're younger than us, we're ahead of you basically. But and so like we want to keep you away from the harm. However, sometimes, especially with unhealthy households, right? Since the elder siblings are raised in a way that, like, how can I say it? Like,
They already know.
ruptures, yeah, ruptures their, like, mental health or the way they perceive themselves. I'm not, like, I guess it would be the same in healthy households, except they were born, like, they were raised more, like, better, you know? But either way, it's like we kind of like implement that teaching habits like without knowing on you, you know, like even if we try. For example, in our childhood, if our parents yelled at us, we would yell at you without trying, you know. It's like built in us. I'm not justifying our actions. Of course, it's wrong, but then we realize it right immediately after. But then, like, at least on my part, I tried to apologize to my sister, but like, I don't really know how to form it because I have never been apologized to as like a kid, and I do not know how to like nurture that part of myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So instead, like, I just try to like protect her and be as calm as I can be around her, even though like there's some part of me that is still angry with like my childhood, like whatever is built inside of me, you know? And like our way of like love language is just like, you know, teaching you, and like that way of protection like comes off as like bossing you around, you know, even though we don't mean to like insult.
As I said earlier, my brother or any older child becomes a second parent at some point, and it's very much so that they've been through it and they don't want you to go through the same thing. And at some point it becomes really silly and unjustified, as he can go to a party or whatever and come home at 1 a.m. Like, he just texts my parents, or sometimes he just comes home the next day without informing us. Like, I call him and he says he's gonna come home at 11. At 12 he's still not there, and then the next day he comes at like 6 a.m., you know? And then I go to the park at like 9 during summer and there's like sun everywhere. And then he calls me and he gets mad at me for doing that. And I get why he's trying to be protective. As a girl and as a younger sister, he definitely has that sort of affection to me. But I find it really stupid because as much as he wants to look out for me, he doesn't let me do the same for him. And I guess that it's very different tolls. But be it in relationships or friendships or anything, he always has this bubble in his head that I'm he acts as if, you know, he's my dad, and he controls me in a way that's not always fun. And he thinks just because he's a few years older, like he's never been my age, and he just uh sees that I'm a very different person from that, and he doesn't understand that I have my own reasons and I can be safe. So he needs to know that. But at the end, we need to talk about who has it harder, older siblings or younger.
Honestly, as I've mentioned like previously, again, the elder siblings are like the firstborn children, so the parents like sort of like train with them, you know. It's like, oh, first time like getting medicine for them, or first time taking them somewhere, or first time like letting them do things, this and that. So obviously every time something happens, the parents have some sort of like hesitation towards it, you know. So they don't let like the elder siblings like that get something as easily as you guys. And even emotionally, like sometimes parents, like especially with their firstborn children, they tend to be more controlling, you know, because they don't know um what they're gonna do or how it's gonna be with their first child, so they just yell or say no to most things.
For younger siblings, ever since they were born, like the second they stepped into the world, they always had an older one who might be good in certain topics. And there's always been expectations, and they have to set the bar. Like, oh, your older brother did that at 5, why can't you do it? Like, you should do the same, if not better. But there's, like you mentioned before, there are certain topics where I'm better and certain topics where he's better. So we should be able to understand that. But parents don't do that, and they put a lot of pressure on the younger siblings to be like the older siblings, which is also one of the reasons, like our previous topics, which is why we tend to copy them, because we don't know how to be like them if we can't do the things they do. And I feel like we definitely have it hard. I'm not saying the older siblings don't have it hard. Honestly, at some point, it really depends on the people personally and the families and the experiences, but it's definitely equal. And I'm not saying the younger sibling has it way harder, but personally, for me, obviously, it does feel like that, but everyone has their own situations and scenarios. But what I'm trying to say is that we always have this feeling that we have to do. And at the end of the day, as much as I love my brother, I can't help feel that he has it easier in some ways, especially since the world always seems to think that the youngest sibling always has it easier, which in some scenarios can be true, but especially in mine, I don't think it is true.
Mm. Honestly, whatever I've gotten from this video, I feel like it genuinely like broke some stereotypes I had about younger siblings, you know? Because like this discussion we had like showed me that oh my god, younger siblings also they have their own like harsh times, and also elder siblings have their own like hard times or whatever feelings they have inside, you know? And I feel like genuinely we should not say one person has it easier than the other, because we both have our own issues inside, and we're both like equal in terms of whatever problems we have, whether it be mentally or physically.
Speaking about it this way, throughout this whole time, I definitely learned that my brother or other older siblings have stuff that I haven't seen the way they did, which is true, of course. And like you said, they definitely have some stuff that we can't compare. And it's best to agree that everyone has it hard. But I just think that the world should know both perspectives before judging based on what they think and feel. So
Yeah.
this was very educational and good.
Yes, the world like really should not like label our roles in a family.
Yes. So that was nice.